Welcome to the tailgate. Before the video starts, I'd like to address the background change. I got this amazing poster at Southeastern. Just look at that. It's amazing. One of my favorite albums ever, and it's a movie poster, but it looks cool. But let's get on to the video. So yeah, welcome back to the tailgate. I know it's been a while since I've done a prediction video. I brought it up in my last video about why I just couldn't fit it in. However, I definitely cannot miss this week. This week got too many ranked games. I did a quick count. We got a whopping 6, plus some other good games. So let's get on to what I think are the top 10 most interesting games going into this week, and I'll give you my predictions on them. Starting with the first game, we got Florida State versus Clemson. Now, I thought the polls were a little too harsh on Clemson. I do have them ranked still, so this makes it a ranked matchup for me. I thought this would be a top 10 matchup going in. I didn't expect Duke to beat Clemson that badly, but I think we're still in for a good game. Clemson is at home, so of course there's going to be a big crowd at Death Valley waiting for Florida State. Florida State's coming off a really bad win against Boston College where they almost blew a 21-point lead. And of course Clemson still has their offensive struggles to worry about as they're going back to conference play and they're playing a really good defense. And of course they got to deal with Jordan Travis. And I brought it up in my ACC prediction video that I think Florida State will win this game. And Florida State looks way better than Clemson, so my opinion hasn't changed on that. But I still think it's going to be a close game. I don't think Clemson will get blown out or anything. That home field advantage and their talent, I don't think it's going to happen. So for me, I think Florida State is going to win this game 31-28. I think it'll be a very close game, probably decided by a game-winning field goal or some touchdown to seal the deal. The first stretch of games this weekend is going to be pretty weak. However, once we get to the second stretch of games, it's a whole different story. As 2:30 kickoff for me, we have Oregon and Colorado. This game is huge. I cannot imagine how this is going to look. Oregon is coming into this game as a top 10 team, and they are a 21-point favorite at the point of making this video. And for me, I think this is Colorado's first true test. TCU is still a very questionable team. I still do have them ranked, but this Oregon team is way different than this TCU team. This Oregon team is way better. Of course, they both have Heisman contending quarterbacks. Colorado has Shedeur Sanders and Oregon has Bo Nix. Both teams have incredible offenses. Oregon has looked more well put together, and they've just looked better overall, but they have had an easier schedule. Colorado, of course, had to play TCU week 1, who was ranked, and then they blew out Nebraska, which looked really good, but they struggled with Colorado State last weekend. We all watched that game. I mean, it looked pretty bad. Oregon is coming off a bunch of blowouts. They did play Tech pretty close. But outside of that, it's been domination. I mean, they scored 81 in the first game. So, it's a lot to look at. I think with Oregon's home field advantage, though, that's going to be the big thing that decides it. And I don't know. I mean, how's Colorado going to play on the road against a top 10 team? It's very hard to say. I don't think they're going to win this game, though. I think this is when the run ends. And I think it's going to be not as close as some people could think. Some people do think it's a blowout, some people think it'll be a close game. I'm kind of right in the middle. For me, I think Oregon is going to win 48-38. There's going to be a lot of offense, because that's what these teams have, but I don't think Colorado can keep up, and I think eventually Oregon will get a stop to put the game away. Another ranked matchup to look at is Utah versus UCLA. UCLA is interesting to me as I don't have UCLA ranked. I think their schedule has just been a little too easy, and they've been struggling with some of those really easy games. So I'm not fully set on them as a ranked team yet. But they are 3-0, so they do look pretty solid. A lot better than I thought they would be, especially with DTR gone. Utah is, of course, back-to-back Pac-12 champions, and they have the home field advantage. The big thing for me when I'm looking at this game is if Cam Rising is playing. Of course, he's still listed as questionable. UCLA is preparing for him. It does seem like he's going to possibly return this game. And I mean, We don't know until Utah brings it up. They still have not said anything yet. But I'm going to go off this game as if Cam Rising is going to come back. And if he does, with Utah having home field advantage, I think Utah is going to get some sweet revenge from UCLA beating them last year. If Rising is back, I don't see UCLA really stopping Utah's offense because I'm not fully set on UCLA yet. I don't really know how good they really are. So for me, I think Utah is going to win 44-21. I think, of course, UCLA will score some points, but I think Utah holds on the whole way through. And that's if Cam Rising plays, which I think he will. The third straight ranked game I'm looking at is Bama versus Ole Miss. This game is very intriguing to me. The AP has this as a top 15 matchup as Ole Miss is ranked 15th and Bama is ranked 13th. I don't have Ole Miss ranked that high. I do have them ranked a little lower, but I still think it's going to be a good game nonetheless. Bama's quarterback is, of course, a big question. I mean, who's playing? I think it should be Jalen Milroe. I think he is the best of the three. But I don't know. The two that played looked really bad against South Florida, and that whole game itself was really bad. Ole Miss hasn't been clean themselves. They struggled with Georgia Tech last week until they pulled away in the fourth quarter. And they struggled with a battered up Tulane team until the fourth quarter again. So it seems like the trend for Ole Miss is that they're a fourth quarter team, which I think can really kill Bama as they're just so used to having these slow starts in the season. They had a slow start against Texas, and then they rebounded, but then they still lost. And of course they had their really slow start with South Florida, and of course they won. I think the home field advantage is going to help out Bama a bit, but with just the whole quarterback thing of Bama, it's so questionable to me that honestly, I'm going to pick Ole Miss to win this game, but I think it will be very close. I think Ole Miss is going to win 24-20. I think we're going to have a lot of defense mainly in this game, which is not what we're used to with Ole Miss, but I think Bama's defense will hold for a good bit. You know, DJ Khaled famously said, another one, and I'm going to stick true to that. We got another ranked matchup to look at as we got Oregon State taking on Washington State. Going into this game, looking at the preseason, I did not think this would be a ranked game. I thought Oregon State would probably just blow them out, and Oregon State would probably stay undefeated, maybe at the worst 3-1. But I was proved wrong. Wisconsin got upset by Washington State. Cameron Ward has been playing incredible for Wazoo, and so they're undefeated. Oregon State is playing to their expectations. Their quarterback improvement has been huge for them. Ugalele has been a big spark for their offensive change as they have a more balanced offense, but their rushing attack is still extremely strong, as they're, of course, one of the top rushing teams in the country. That's the big issue with Washington State going into this game. They have one of the worst rushing offenses as they don't even have a 100-yard rusher yet. Cameron Ward is their leading rusher. He's a quarterback and he doesn't even have 100 yards yet. So it is weird to look at this game. Washington State is home, and it's probably going to be a huge crowd there. But I do think that with Oregon State's more balanced offense, eventually Cameron Ward is just going to run out of gas. And try as he might, as great as he is, I mean, everyone has their limits. So I just think that balanced offense is just going to keep it going more than I think Cameron Ward can keep it going for Wazoo. So for me, I think Oregon State is going to win 38-31. I do got to save some ranked games to look at the end, so the streak does unfortunately end right here. But I think it's still be a funny game to look at, as next up we have LSU versus Arkansas. I thought Arkansas was going to beat BYU last week, and I thought just with that it would be a more interesting game. I thought Arkansas might possibly be ranked. We'd have ourselves a ranked matchup at Tiger Stadium. But Arkansas choked 2 double-digit leads, and now they're sitting at 2-1 with losing a lot of momentum going into this game. Arkansas is coming in with a pretty good rushing defense, which definitely hurts LSU. As a big part of Jane Daniels' game is his ability to move around and just make plays when there's no receivers open. He's definitely been showing that against Grambling and Mississippi State last week, where he's been looking really good and has, in my opinion, been climbing back in the Heisman ladder. I still think it's going to be a good game. I mean, of course, it's the battle for the boot. It's one of the biggest rivalries in the SEC. So I still think we're going to have a pretty close game, as I think Arkansas will definitely show. KJ Jefferson is a really good quarterback, so I think he'll play really good and keep up with Jane Daniels. I mean, last year Arkansas was injured and battered to bits, and they still almost beat a top 6 LSU team. So I still think we're in for a close game here. However, I do think there'll be a little more offense, as I think LSU is going to win 31-24. Because it is a rivalry game, so I think it still will be pretty close. One of the games that you might be surprised to think that I have as a top 10 game to look at is Texas and Baylor. The reason for that is that Texas was on upset alert for almost the whole game against Wyoming. However, they did come back and they got things figured out and they won by 21. Baylor had Utah on upset alert 2 weeks ago, but then they choked it and they lost 20-13. Texas is coming to Baylor as a pretty big favorite, but again, Texas is coming into conference play with a really rough win against Wyoming. So I'm going to keep my eye on this game to see just how Texas is looking. I mean, was their game against Bama a fluke? Was Bama themselves a fraud? So the win isn't that impressive and Texas is still normal Texas? I don't know. That's why I think this game's going to be interesting, because I think this will be a game that could most likely end in an upset. I think this could be the big upset alert. Now, I don't think Texas will lose. I know they're going to be on the road, and so it definitely won't be easy. But I think they will get the job done. However, I do think it will be close. So I think Texas will again be on upset alert, but they'll figure it out. I think, again, they'll get some big plays from Quinn Ewers or Xavier Worthy, which will seal the deal. As for me, I think Texas is going to win 38-24. Now, I know I'm kind of backtracking here on the timing of these games, but one game that kind of caught my eye that I didn't look at first was Rutgers versus Michigan. Now, it kind of sounds like a joke, saying that Michigan versus a Big Ten bottom feeder will be an interesting game, but when I look at these two teams, so far, the quality of opponents they played have been about equal, and the quality of victories have been about equal too. They've both been blowing out all their teams, and they've been playing about the same level of competition. Now, of course, Michigan does have way more talent than Rutgers, but what I'm looking at was the last time we had these teams face off when they were undefeated. They were both 3-0, and Rutgers played a very close game with Michigan. Michigan did win 20-13, and that was when Michigan made their first playoff appearance. But I'm kind of going off that Rutgers actually did play Michigan pretty close. Last time Rutgers was 3-0 going into this game. So I don't know if that entails that we're going to get a similar game. It would be hilarious if we did, and maybe we could show that Rutgers is actually pretty solid. To me, there's more of a test for Rutgers. Can they get back to a bowl game? Can they get back to a 500 season after what has felt like a very long time? They have a pretty good running back with Monanaga. Probably I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's been playing pretty well for them, and I do think Michigan is going to win. And I do think it'll be a little closer than the spread, though, as I think Michigan will win this game 34-20. I think, again, they're bound to just pull away eventually, even if Rutgers gives them a good fight. Back to some ranked games, we have Penn State versus Iowa. Typically when these teams play, there's usually just defensive battles. There's not a lot of offense. Last time these two teams played, Iowa was ranked 3rd and they beat number 4 Penn State 23-20. And there's also been some highlights and lowlights of their rivalry. One time, I think Iowa beat them 6-4, which is hilarious. Iowa's defense looks about the same as last year. Of course, no Jack Campbell, but it still looks good. It still looks like one of the best in the country. Their offense looks slightly improved, though. Cade McNamara looks to be a solid improvement at quarterback. Their offense is still pretty stagnant, but it is improvement. And of course, Penn State is just a powerhouse. They're one of the better teams in the Big Ten. Actually, one of the best teams. It's just Ohio State and Michigan that hold them back, really. Penn State really has it all. They have a pretty good quarterback. Drew Aller's been playing pretty solid for them in their first 3 games. Of course, their rushing attack is always good, and their defense is really good. Iowa does have to travel to Penn State, which is going to really help Penn State in my opinion. It's probably going to be a whiteout game. It's a night game at Beaver Stadium. However, I think the defense is definitely going to be here for both teams. With that home field advantage though, I give Penn State the edge. As to me, I think they're going to win 20-17. I think we're going to get just a really defensive game from these two again, like it always is. The last game we're looking at is, of course, Ohio State versus Notre Dame. Top 10 matchup, game day at South Bend. I'm really excited for this game. Notre Dame looks way improved from last season, and even last year was a good game. Notre Dame held off Ohio State for a really long time, but eventually they did lose, and Notre Dame kind of fell apart until they picked it back up magically and ended 9-4. This season, the big thing was their major quarterback upgrade. Sam Hartman has been playing really good in their first 4 games. He looks like a Heisman candidate. Kyle McCord for Ohio State started off really slow. He really didn't look that good, but then when Marvin Harrison came back, their offense started to click, as he looked really good against Western Kentucky. So that's mainly what I'm looking at. Notre Dame has had a tendency to let these teams hang on for a little too longer than they should have. They struggled with NC State. They struggled with Central Michigan for a little longer than you would expect them to for a top 10 team. And I know Ohio State had their big struggle with Indiana, but like I said, once Marvin Harrison Jr. came back, it started to pick up. They are going to play at South Bend, so Notre Dame has the big home field advantage. And honestly, with Sam Hartman, I think that's just going to be the big edge, because I don't think Kyle McCord is bad. He has been playing pretty good, but Sam Hartman has been playing amazing so far this whole season. I think he's has the best shot to right now make an early Heisman moment, and this is the game to prove it. With the home field advantage and just all that, Sam Hartman, Aldrick Estem, those are the two-headed monster for Notre Dame's offense. I think that's going to be enough to beat Ohio State, and Notre Dame proved that they're a legit team and a playoff contender. As to me, I think Notre Dame is going to win 35-31, and that wraps up my top 10 predictions. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm excited to watch this batch of games, and I really hope all these ranked games live up to the expectation. I cannot wait. But outside of that, like, favorite, and subscribe if you had, and I'll be back Monday with a recap of these hopefully amazing games. And yeah, that poster, it's amazing, right? Totally not scary.